Okay, that is in the works. Okay, so welcome Jaguar in Portland, Sue in Toronto, Binaz in California, Louisa in Ireland. Welcome Sarita in Portland. Welcome Sister Bless in London, Tammy in Maryland.
That is in the works.
Oh, okay, here's the live coming
Okay, so
on.
welcome Jaguar in Portland.
Sorry, I get the echo for a second there. Welcome Stephanie in France, Marina in Sweden, Janine in Brazil, Michelle in Florida. Yay, welcome everybody. Claudia in Germany. So glad to see you all here. So let me do my official opening and intro for this interview with Pam here. So everyone, in the Aquarian Wisdom Festival, you are invited to gather with speakers, teachers, thought leaders, musicians, and artists who will illuminate our hearts and minds with paradigm-shifting perspectives from many diverse and multidimensional fields. All topics included in this festival are specifically selected to guide you to live a passionate, fully awakened life in 2021 and beyond. Together in sacred space, we will hold workshops, lead experiential practices, and share life-changing wisdom so that together we can optimally navigate this momentous paradigm shift into the Aquarian age. And Pam Montgomery, I am going to read your bio in just a moment, but I just want to say first, it's such an honor to have you here. I have been reading your books for many years, and I've been always deeply, deeply moved by your work. So thank you for being a part of this.
And thank you as well for inviting me.
Yes, absolutely. So Pam Montgomery is an herbalist, author, international teacher, and plant spirit healing practitioner who has passionately embraced her role as a spokesperson for the green beings and has been investigating plants and their intelligent spiritual nature for more than 3 decades. She is the author of 2 books, one of which is the highly acclaimed Plant Spirit Healing, A Guide to Working with Plant Consciousness. She teaches internationally and virtually on plant spirit healing, spiritual ecology, and co-creative partnership with nature. Pam is a founding member of the United Plant Savers and more recently, the Organization of Nature Evolutionaries, or ONE. Her latest passion is to engage ceremonially in full symbiosis with the plant-human matrix, where the elder plants initiate and guide us into being truly human. Wow, amazing, Pam. So your topic for today is awakening a co-creative partnership with nature. And so could you begin by sharing with us, what does it mean to be in partnership with nature?
Well, I'd love to share. Here's the thing. We could talk about this for days, of course, but we're going to do it for a little bit this afternoon. But once I get going, I kind of get on a roll, so, but yeah, well, this whole notion of being in a partnership, which is more than being in a relationship. Mm-hmm. And so it feels to me, well, I feel like our place here on this planet, human beings, are part of our original birthright or blueprint or whatever you might want to call it, is that, we're here to help steward, be a steward of nature. And what does that mean? What does that, I've really deeply looked into this of like, what does it really mean to be a good steward? And how do we do that? And so my experience has been that we go beyond just relationship. Not that there's anything wrong with the relationship, but that we get that to be a good steward, we actually need to be a good partner. And and people say, well, how can you be a partner with a river, or how can you be a partner with a plant? Well, the truth is, with plants especially, and trees, is that we are their kin. We are very closely and symbiotically related already. We're already related because we breathe. Our breath comes from the plants. Plants, they take in our breath, our out breath. So we're already related. But when we move into partnership, where we actually create together, where we create on this planet together, and it doesn't, one's not better than the other. We're not better, they're not better. We're equal, and we do this work together, and we bring it into that kind of conscious awareness. When we bring it up a few notches into conscious awareness, it changes everything. So that's what I have found. And that, especially with the plants, because I'm a plant person, so that's what I'm working with a lot, is that when I treat the plants and trees as equal beings, that, we're here together, we're going to work this together. You tell me what you need, I'll tell you what I need, we'll work it together. And when you do that, they respond to you. It's like, in a way, it's like they're so happy that we're paying attention to them now at this level. It's like, oh, finally, here they are. oh, they're finally coming along.
They're finally remembering.
Yeah, they're finally remembering. They're finally waking up. And so it's actually a really exciting time, even though we've got some challenges. Don't get me wrong. As you know, we have many challenges right now. But what I find in this whole notion of partnership, here's what I'm talking about getting on a roll, and side shoots will go off here. So you can just reel me in whenever you need to.
Okay, sure.
Okay, we got it. Just reel me in if you need to. But basically, okay, what I want to say about partnership is that, especially with the plants and the trees, but with all of nature, with the water, with all of it, is that we're very symbiotically related. I mean, we really are closely related. And, keep it in the real present time, which is that now our evolution, I believe, is of a spiritual nature. We've pretty much evolved pretty far physically, I think. And so now it's like, so what does that mean? And what I'm finding is that always the plants have evolved prior to their animal counterparts. So like angiosperms, flowering plants, evolved before mammals because mammals had to have something to eat. So angiosperms evolved first. So anyway, they've always just preceded their animal counterparts in evolution. So now I think that our big evolution is of a spiritual nature. It's about raising consciousness. We've got to raise our consciousness to the level where we stop destroying the planet, or the gig's up here. So the plants are just ahead of us, and if you look, like the big explosion in like psychotropic plants and flower essences and plant spirit work, it's like that kind of explosion has happened with the plants in the last, few decades, which says to me, the plants are stepping it up. They're guiding us in our spiritual evolution. And so if we just pay attention to them on that kind of bigger level, and it's way beyond the chemical constituents of the plants, if we pay attention to them on that bigger level, you'll just be amazed at what they can share with us and how they can guide us. So anyway, that's a kind of a long way of saying that stepping into this partnership, when we do that, there are just, there's so many gifts that come back to you from nature. So anyway, partnership.
Yes.
And co-creative partnership, even better, because then we're doing it together. We're taking up our rightful place as a part of nature. Absolutely. Not separate.
And yeah, if we think about, the mythology, for one thing, the importance of the trees, like think of Yggdrasil and the different versions of the world tree that we see.
Yes.
And then our very, very long-standing connection with plants as medicines, as herbs, as healers, and as, entheogens. There's so many ways that we've been in partnership with plants in this ancient and indigenous way, right? Yes. So how can what are some ways that we can reawaken this, work with this, and really co-create?
Yeah, the whole idea of co-creative partnership. I have different aspects that I like. It's joyful encounter and trust and self-love, and all of these are part of it, but and healing the splits, healing the places where like we perceive something to be the enemy, it's like so healing those. But the big one with co-creative partnership is communication. So that's a key element to be able to kind of learn the language of nature. And I feel like we totally are able to do this. This is not for the chosen few. This is not like, oh, I'm not psychic, so therefore I can't do it. It's not like that. It's here. We have it inside us. We just need to remember it. And so it's a remembering process, but communication is key. So with really good communication, we need to learn the language. So I'll use plants as an example, because that's my go-to, is that on a biological level, in the biological world, and this is in the science, not that we have to have everything corroborated by science, but what I see right now is the science is like finally catching up. It's like they're confirming things that we've known for, eons, really. And so, but it's light and sound. It's the vibratory and which they carry vibratory resonance that you receive in your body as a felt sensation. And it's a sensation. It's not an emotion. It's a sensation. And you receive that. And that, okay. So light at the nucleus of the cell, our cells, plant cells, any living organism at the nucleus of the cell are what's called biophotons. Biophotons and biophonons, light and sound. And when my biophotons and your biophotons, or my biophotons and this plant's biophotons, when we make a coherent, we go into coherence, that's what it's called, where we kind of like ride that same wavelength, and we make this, there's a beam of light. Now you're going to say, well, wait a minute, I can't see that beam of light. Well, just because it's not in our visual spectrum of red to purple, which is the rainbow colors, there's light, there's all kinds of light on the other ends of the spectrum that we can't see. Now, let me keep going with this one. So when we have a coherent beam, that's when communication starts to take place. And all kinds of communication can come. And it's not necessarily the way you and I are communicating. You and I are communicating mostly with our mouths. I mean, we see each other. I see your smile. I see how, the light in your eyes, so that's a form of communication, but primarily humans communicate with voice, with their mouth. So with nature and plants and trees, we just have to learn this new language, which really foundationally is through light and sound. So anyway, so we've got these biophotons, and there's this beam of light, there's this coherence starting to happen, and a two-way communication begins to take place, which we primarily experience through vibratory resonance, through vibration. And you receive the vibration and you identify it in your body. And it's like, oh, there's a flutter in my chest, for example. Or one of my felt sensations is my hands get really fat. Everything gets big, fat, it expands. And so, and then you put a handle on it, you name it, or you have a posture that goes with it or something. I call that elephantitis. It's not the disease, which is elephantiasis, but it's this must be what it feels like to be an elephant, because everything is getting big. My legs are getting big, my feet are getting big, and I'm basically going into that expanded state. So anyway, you identify the vibratory resonance as a sensation in your body, and every plant, every tree has a different vibratory resonance, and it's going to be different for you than it is for me. If you're vibrating with white pine tree and I'm vibrating with white pine tree, it's going to be different because your vibration is different than mine. So what you create together is going to be different. So once you've made that connection, once you can identify that vibratory resonance in your body, then all kinds of things can happen. And, you can move, you step into the daydream of the plant or the daydream of the tree. And that's like when you pay attention to everything that's going around you, everything is part of the picture. And you begin to take little bits, it's like little puzzle pieces, and you fit them together and it starts to make a picture. Now, one other cool thing I want to say to you about biophotons is that there's this amazing man. His name is Fritz Popp. He's a German biophysicist. And he's the one that discovered biophotons at the nucleus of the cell. his work is like amazing. And what he's doing is transferring biophotons from plants to people, because what he has found is that when people are ill, and we're talking cancer and things like that, we're talking big stuff, that the light at the nucleus of the cell, he says, it goes awry.
Wow.
The pattern changes of the light at the nucleus of the cell when the cell's not healthy. Oh, it gives me cold chills just talking about this.
Yeah, me too. I just got
Yeah. So the plants are, the biophotons of the plants are connecting with the unhealthy cells where the light's gone awry, and is re-informing the light toward health.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Now that's leading edge.
Yes.
You know, that is like, yeah, let's do that some more.
That's so moving. I was just reading that at the point of fertilization, of like an egg and a sperm come together, there's a flash of light. Is this the same phenomenon?
Well,
it's the biophotons, I guess.
It's
connecting.
Yeah, it's yes, because you know, here you've got these two cells are joining, so of course.
Yeah, and it said that the how bright the light is will indicate, if it's brighter, then the embryo has more chance of surviving. So and it matches what you're saying here. It's an indicator of our health, of ourselves.
Yes, it's an indicator of our health for sure.
Wow.
And this work that he's doing, I mean, it's quite successful. And so anyway, I find that really exciting. That's just kind of one of the, I don't even remember what the question was you asked, but it doesn't really matter because it's all good, right?
It's all good. Yes. Well, this is bringing up for me too, Pam, is that we have so many more senses than just the 5 or maybe 6 that we give ourselves credit for, right? Or that we like remember.
Yes.
There's this, you have probably heard of this. There's this project, Nature Connect, that's being done on a remote island off of either Washington or Oregon in the Northwest. And they're taking people out into nature, and they're talking about what senses are you using, and they've come up with the conclusion that there's at least 54 senses. And it feels to me like this feeling the light, feeling the vibration from the plants, right? It's like these senses we have that we didn't even know.
Yes.
Or we've forgotten that we have.
Well, we've just forgotten. I really think that we do know it, and it's actually part of our birthright to be in this partnership with nature. It's because we are of nature. I mean, we are. And so we've just, gone into amnesia. We've just forgotten. And a lot of that, I think, is our separation from nature. We've become separate, the big movement towards the cities and all that back a few years back. And we've just kind of gotten separate. So it's time to come home. It's really time to come home to nature, because I think it's the point we're at on the planet right now, it's crucial that we come back into alignment with nature and into partnership with nature. So, but yes, you're absolutely right. This whole thing that you just mentioned, and the whole vibration. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can tap into vibration and how you can feel it, especially working through your heart as well. That's another big piece here, is working through the heart. So, and heart coherence. What's that?
Could you say a little more about that?
Oh, yeah, I can talk about the heart for days. It's one of my favorite topics. Well, again, there's heart coherence as well as, I'll use that word again. Maybe the work of the heart math folks out in California. And so they've done great work. But okay, I'll try to bring it in. Okay, so one of the ways we're hardwired to connect with nature is, it's called biophilia, but it basically means the love of nature, or the love of life systems. So anyway, there's biophilia, which right now they're hunting for the gene. There's this hypothesis that in our genetic makeup, we need There's a need. It's not a want. It's a need to be in close proximity to nature because of our long time association with nature and our symbiotic relationship with nature. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for nature. We just wouldn't. We need the oxygen from the plants. We need the water, we need the sunlight. We need the air, we need it all. We need the soil, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for nature. So anyway, so we have, again, a hypothesis that it's actually a need to be in close proximity. And when we don't fulfill that need by not engaging with nature hardly at all, then we, I'm not going to, let's see. Well, I'll just say it. We get sick. We get sick.
The outcomes are worse.
Yeah, on all levels, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, we get sick because we're not connected to that which gives us our life. This is like on the like primal level of what we need is to be near what sustains us and gives us life. And when we separate ourselves from that, we don't do well. We don't thrive. We might survive, but we don't thrive. So my feeling is that this new time that we're entering into is all about thriving and all of life thriving, not just us, but all of life thriving. So, okay, back to the heart. So we've got biophilia, but then the other thing that we have with the heart is oxytocin, the hormone. Oxytocin gets released from the heart and the hypothalamus. And oxytocin is the bonding hormone. That's what it's called, the bonding hormone. And it initiates the restorative response. Restoration, just like it sounds. Very different than cortisol. Very different than fight or flight. Very different than initiating the stress response. Which my feeling is even when we've got like a charmed life or whatever, these days stress is a big one because there's so many levels of stress. There's so many ways. I mean, this past year has been like over the top with stress. And so, okay, so the ideal here is for us to shift where more oxytocin is being released and less cortisol. That's the ideal because it's the bonding hormone. And most of the research has been done with mother and child. So that's the initial bonding experience. But it's bonding on every level. It's bonding, it's people bonding, it's bonding with nature, it's bonding, it's social bonding. It goes on and on and on. So oxytocin is one of the ways that we can make that connection with nature is through oxytocin. So oxytocin is peak moments. So it's birth, death, orgasm. It's the aha moments. It's like the most incredible sunset that you go, oh, it's that, or the wow moment. I call the wow moment wide open to nature, or not wide open to wonder. Wow. Wide open to wonder.
It's like the epiphany in ancient Crete where they're like this because they're just in awe and wonder.
Yes, that's what it is. And so when you're in the wow moment or the aha moment or whatever, that means oxytocin is being released and it's running through your veins and, cell receptors are uptaking it. And this is one of the ways you're hardwired to make the connection. This is how we connect. And it's part of it's part of who we are. It's part of our makeup. We don't have to learn this. We don't have to learn how to release oxytocin. It happens. Just like we don't have to learn how to breathe. It happens. But it's when you bring that breath to a conscious awareness of like, oh, my oxygen is coming from the plants and the trees. Oh, my out breath is being breathed in by the plants and the trees because they breathe in carbon dioxide. We breathe in oxygen. It's an exchange of breath. So when you bring it into conscious awareness, when you are aware that that's what's going on, then you start moving into partnership. prior to that, it's relationship. It's a given. You're in relationship. So, yeah, the heart, oxytocin. So, okay. So one more piece here. In order to really encourage those oxytocic moments, it's really important for the heart to be in coherence. So it's called coherent heart rate variability, which that's how they measure heart health right now. So we give positive impulses to the heart in order for it to be in coherence, so that you can have more of those oxytocic moments where you're going to bond with nature. Gratitude, forgiveness, innocent perception, and care. Big one being gratitude, because it's really easy to do. So when in doubt, allow yourself to go into the state of gratitude, which then puts your heart on the throne where it should be, doing all the perceiving, since the heart is the primary organ of perception. So we do that, and then we can go into heart coherence, and we can release the oxytocin. We can have wow moments, and we can be connected. So there's the heart. Wow, I mean, that was like the 25-cent version.
I love that, what you said, put the heart on the throne where it should be as the primary organ of perception. Yes. Oh, that is, yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
So on a very practical level then, how can we go out and connect with the plants? You know, like should we sit by a tree, hug a tree, you know, or talk to the flowers? Like what should we do? What do you recommend? Right. Especially if somebody's just getting started with like expanding into this realm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's take a moment, just a moment. Okay. So everybody here, let's just take a moment and put aside whatever you're thinking about, or your pieces of paper or whatever. Just take a moment and come into your breath, and just take a couple. If you need to close your eyes in order to focus, then do that. But just take a couple nice deep breaths. And I want you to bring into your awareness a favorite plant or tree. Maybe you have a lovely house plant that you like. Maybe you have a lovely tree outside your window where you're sitting. Maybe you have a lovely garden with amazing plants in it, but just bring one of those plants. I know sometimes it's hard to choose, but just bring one of those plants into your awareness at this time. And then begin to breathe. And bring into your awareness that you're breathing in oxygen, that your favorite plant or tree is breathing out. You are breathing in the out breath of your plant ally or tree ally. And then on your exhale, you're breathing out carbon dioxide, and your plant or tree ally is breathing in your carbon dioxide. And bring into your conscious awareness that this is a cycle of breath. Breathing in the out breath of your plant or tree. Your out breath becomes the in breath of your plant or tree in this cycle of breath. And you breathe with the plants and trees every second of every minute of every hour of every day. You have this very profound relationship. This gives you your very life. You would not have it without these amazing plants bringing you the gift of your breath. And as you breathe, knowing that your plant or tree is breathing you in, you are the breath of another being. Feel the intimacy of that. So here in this very conscious awareness of your breath, with another being, sharing breath with another being. And how this conscious awareness brings you into a whole new space with plants and trees, and especially the ones that you're close to. If you begin each day in this way, in this conscious aware way, your day goes really well. It sets the tone of partnership, of thriving into life with other beings, with nature. And so taking one more nice, big, deep breath and giving thanks, being in deep gratitude for this very, very, very mundane and yet very profound partnership with the green beings.
Thank you. That was so beautiful.
So that's a way to start. Start with your breath. Start with your breath. It's what you've got. It's simple. It's easy to do. But when it comes into conscious awareness, it changes. And so that's a very simple way of beginning. Other things that I do is, when we talk about the light and how we experience the light through color, that's how we experience it, is through color. So I like to work with my chakras because that's the rainbow colors of the light that we see in our spectrum. And that's another way of connecting in with nature, is becoming very aware of the colors of everything. So living in the Northeast, I am right now, especially, it's like, oh my goodness, there are so much green. And I can probably sit here, look out my window and count 10 to 20 different shades of green, especially in the spring, but the green. So where's green hit you? Right in your heart. That's the color of the heart chakra. So I be in this green all around me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, does nature love me? It's like the color of love, because it goes straight to your heart, and then, you've got red in your first chakra, and you got purple in your crown chakra. And so I like to connect in through color as well, and connecting it in with my chakras. And like we talked about before, there's more light as well. But color is really actually a amazing way to connect in with nature, with all of nature. And sound is the other one. So, and again, there's sound outside of the spectrum of what we can hear. One of the things I like to do is sing to my plants. And I kind of do a little tour in the morning. I kind of go out and say hi to everybody and how you doing? Oh, how was your evening? And I like to just sing those songs. And I'm not necessarily a singer, but I find that the plants really like sound. And they really respond. And, it'll be a totally no wind at all. And you go out and start singing with the plants, and all of a sudden you'll start seeing them like going like this when there's absolutely no wind. And then there's this other, I'll just mention this quickly, but there's some folks in Italy, Damanhur in Italy. Do you know about Damanhur?
I do a little bit. Yeah, I've heard about it.
Well, it's an amazing place. And they have created the music of the plants, which is a device that you hook it all up to the plants, put an electrode on the leaves and a probe to the root, and it measures the electrical resistance between the leaves and the root. But and when I first learned about this and experienced it, I was like, oh, come on, really? A machine? We can do this without a machine. However, what I have found over the years is that, so let me explain it to everybody who doesn't know what this is. So you hook up this device, which is, it has a sound card in it, like 120 instruments. You can choose the instrument, and the plants sing. You can hear their vibratory resonance through this little machine, this device, which is called Music of the Plants. And it's amazing. It's amazing what they produce or don't. They won't sing if they're not into it, or if the environment They're very sensitive to their environment. And they'll like, I'll tell a quick little story. Is it okay that I do these little side shoots?
Absolutely. They're delightful. Yes.
Okay. Quick little story. I was at a college. I was teaching a class at a college. My friend was the professor, and she invited me to come in. So I brought my Music of the Plants machine. And these are like, I mean, I'm not ageist, just to say, however, these were like, that age group of like 19, probably somewhere around there, and it was a required class, so they had to be there. And it wasn't something they were choosing, anyway, it was like one of the requirements to fulfill something. Anyway, so I bring in a plant, I bring in my machine, and I tell the story of Cleve Baxter, who was the lie detector guy, who way back when, he was hooking plants up to his lie detector, and he had a student in another part of another building with a different kind of plant, and he lit a match to the leaves of the plant. And then they've got another group of students, and this kid gets mixed in with these students in another part of the building with a different species of plant. It wasn't even the same species of plant. And all the students walk past this plant that's hooked up to his lie detector. And when the kid who lit the match got to the plant, the thing starts going all over the place. It starts reacting. So this plant over here knew which student had lit the match to that plant over there. And it was like, wow.
Incredible.
So I told this story in this class, and there was this kid, he was like, yeah, right. Yeah. He had such an attitude. He was all slunk down in his chair. And the plant that I had hooked up was singing along. It was like, da-da-da-da-da. It was singing all over the place. And he said, what happens if we light a match to this plant? Plant stopped. It stopped singing. And I was like, he said, no way. And I went, yes way. It was like so perfect. I was like, thank you. So it just was like, so anyway, the plants, when they sing, so of course, Damanhur is doing all kinds of research. They're bringing them into hospitals. They're bringing them into schools. And of course, kids are learning better. And of course, people are healing faster. And so there's something to it, and in a way, I feel like because it's a machine, it has the ability to reach the masses, to reach a whole lot more people than just the choir. And I feel like so much of the time I'm just preaching to the choir, but I have found that, I bring these things to like big conferences, where there's hundreds of people, and they're just blown away. They just start weeping and not realizing that. So anyway, sound. So that's just another piece here, is to really tap into sound and how the plants really respond to sound. And so I do a whole thing of resonating back and forth, it's tonal variations, but of resonating. And it's kind of like the plants, I don't know how to describe it, but it's kind of like an echo. It's like you're toning with the plant, and there's this vibratory echo that comes back to you. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's a resonance that you definitely can feel. Sometimes you can hear it. Sometimes you can't hear it, but you can definitely sense it. You can sense the vibratory resonance of it. So light or color, through color, and sound, breath. I mean, sensory awareness, all your senses, going through your senses with the plants. I mean, there's so much. Anyway, what was that question that you asked again? Oh, how do people connect?
Yes.
How can they just go out and do it?
Wonderful.
Okay.
And Louisa in the chat said there's a full rainbow outside where she is. And so isn't that amazing? Because one of these things that's really touching to me is like when I see like just an incredibly beautiful sunset, or I just, I see a tree and just behold it in all its glory, right? Or a rainbow, things like this. It's that awe and wonder, right? So the more time that we can put ourselves in a position to experience that awe and wonder, right?
That's exactly right.
Open.
That's exactly right. And just to if you can be in your heart, those positive impulses to the heart. So you're approaching nature through your heart. and that those moments you're talking about, those wonder moments, there's so many of them. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah.
I mean, even just like I have a beautiful stream, mountain stream that runs right through the middle of my property. And even like walking across the bridge, you know, across the stream and just noticing the light on the water and how the light plays on the water. And I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, it stops me in my tracks. And I just have to go, wow, look at the reflection of the light on this water. Wow. You know, or a beautiful flower blossoms that day. And I'm like, wow, you weren't here yesterday. Or the smell, the lilacs are starting to open now. And the smell of the lilacs is like, it's like that sweetness in the air. I mean, there's so many of those moments. If we just slow down just a tad and stop
And
balancing our checkbook in our head.
Right? Not looking at the phone.
Not looking at the phone. Stop balancing your checkbook in your head and just let, you know,
Yes.
I mean, there's a ton of distraction out there. So, you know, we can be distracted at any given moment. But you know, what's that John Muir quote? Something like, I went to the woods. I went to the woods to find out the news.
Oh, yes.
Something like that, you know?
Yes, definitely. Let's get our news from the woods, not
from right.
11 o'clock news.
Right. Yeah. So anyway,
well, yeah. So Pam, this is all it for me. It just feels like this is so much about life, right? And like putting life back at the center, like really honoring the sacredness of life, and the plants have such strong messages for us to help us remember that.
They do. So
how can we create a new paradigm where life can thrive, where we're really honoring that?
Yeah, creating new paradigms. Well, I feel like the way that we create a new paradigm is we tell a new story. We tell a different story. We don't tell the old stories anymore. And sometimes that takes courage, you know, for you and I to sit here and say, oh, we can talk to plants. And I have to say, I've been doing this pretty much my whole adult life, and I'm getting on in years now. I'm not going to give into it yet, but I am. I'm getting there. I turned 70 last month. So I'm like, oh, does that mean I'm an elder? So, you know, and when I first started doing this work way long time ago, in the herbal world, even I was labeled, you know, airy fairy and all that kind of stuff, you know, and, you know, now people are starting to come around a little bit more, but you have to be courageous sometimes to tell a new story. And that's what you're doing. You're telling this beautiful Aquarian story right now. And we have to step it up. We have to step it up and tell a new story. And, you know, when, you know, what happens is when you tell a new story and enough people are telling that story, then you come into consensus reality, you know, you step into consensus reality. And, you know, if we all, you know, a large percentage of us say, oh, sure, we can see auras, then it becomes consensus reality. It's then you all agree that you can see auras. And once you all agree that you can see auras, well, voila, there it is. And you can. And so if we all agree that we can talk to plants or trees or water or whatever it is, then we will. And, you know, it's that 100th monkey thing too, is like, you know, when our consciousness reaches a certain level, and then there's a leap in conscious awareness. So I think we need to tell our story.
Yes.
So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to tell the story of co-creative partnership with nature, and of, you know, and how symbiotically we are related to the plants, and how they are guiding us in our spiritual evolution, because they are. So
beautiful. Yeah, I love that. Creating a new, not just a new story, but a new consensus reality where we're all agreeing on this same story, you know, and it can have different nuances and all that, but it's like the core elements are the same.
Because we've been operating on two fairly major stories for the last 2,000 years, you know, dominion over, and everything's a machine that we can fix, you know, so this very mechanical universe, and then that we are the crown of creation and we're here to dominate. Those are the two main stories, and they don't work anymore. I'm not sure they ever did, but they definitely don't work now.
They have led us far off track.
We've gotten way off track. That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think we've got some big choices right now to be making. We're kind of at a crossroads here, and we can go down the techno route. Don't get me wrong. I love that I can see you right now on this screen and that we can all be together. However, how far do we want to go with it?
Yes.
Are we all going to anyway, or we can really take up our rightful place, our birthright. Really our birthright is to be a part of nature. So we can do that. We can make a choice right now.
And it does take courage, like you said.
It sure does.
It sure does. It might be a very different path than what your friends and family, think is true or think you should be doing, or what modern society around you is saying, right? So we have to have great courage in these times. This is part of what we're called to right now, is the deep.
But here we are. We were born for these times. Here we are.
Yes.
So that means we're here to share our gifts. And we all carry gifts, just like the plants and the trees. Each has their own gifts that they bring in. We all have gifts. And that's what we're doing here. We're here to share our gifts. We're here to, make life thrive and jump up and live again and all of that. So, might as well do it. Might as well do what we came here to do.
Yes.
And get on with it and stop messing around.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to invite some questions from the audience, if that's okay with you, Pam.
That's fine. Yeah.
I've had so much fun having this conversation with you, and I want to see what everybody else wants to ask too. So everybody in the chat here, go ahead. If you have a question for Pam, go ahead and put that in the chat. And I will share your questions with her. And actually, Pam just shared this very intelligent idea with me. If you have a question, just put a Q in front of it in the chat, and then we'll know for sure. I really love that idea. I've never done that before.
Oh, it just makes it so much easier. Instead of hunting through them and reading every single thing.
Right, exactly. I'll share a few things that people have written here. Louisa is saying, my cuckoo flower started growing this year in the garden. Maybe it's a new, I see them waving at me at night. Oh, beautiful. And then Barb says, I've been extra drawn this year to my gardens, added a raised bed garden, and just wanted to connect deeper to my own piece of land. It feels so good. And as we've been home more, what a beautiful time to go out and connect with the land. Even if you only have a little tiny bit, go out and connect.
Oh, you don't even need, that's, some people think that that's part of it is, you need all acres and acres and acres. No, your little yard or the pots on your balcony and your, city apartment. I mean, there's so many ways to connect. So I should just say that too, is that plants work outside of time and space. They're very shamanic in nature because they operate outside of time and space. So once you have, tapped into their vibratory resonance, and I can identify it in your body, what that resonance is, and you can easily call it back up. You can communicate with that plant or tree anywhere. You don't have to be in its presence. Mm. So you're communicating on the spirit level.
Yes.
So it's available to you all the time, no matter where you are.
You're connected in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Claudia is asking, do you involve the nature spirits and elementals when you connect with nature?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes. There's the, let's see. I'll try to bring it in. There's this thing called the original Trinity. And this for me is, there's lots of Trinities. And so, but the original Trinity is where we kind of took up our place within the Trinity. So, and the original Trinity is human beings, nature spirits, and plants and trees. And what I have noticed here in these times, plants and trees have been holding down the fort. They represent 99% of all living organisms on the planet, which means they're very successful and they know how to thrive. So they've been holding down the fort. Nature spirits not everywhere, but in many places have kind of gone into hiding, have kind of gone into like, there's been so much disruption in the landscape that they're kind of like, oh, I'm out of here. And they've kind of gone into hiding. And humans fell off the cart a long time ago. So, so really, to be in full co-creative partnership, what you want to do is you get back on the cart, you take up your natural place as a steward and a part of nature. The nature spirits are the ones that, elementals and nature spirits, they're two different things. Nature spirits are primarily engaged with plants and trees, and they really help with like the manifestation of plants and trees. So if you want a good garden, you definitely want to get down with the nature spirits in your garden, because they're the ones that really help your plants grow really well and can really help you to know what the plants might need. And it doesn't necessarily, it's not just what they physically need, but what they need on other levels as well. So yes, they're very important. Elementals are connected to the elements. So if you want to be connecting in with other, with the earth or with the water, or, there are other elemental beings. And that's another level of connection. So to answer your question, yes. Yes, get with the nature spirits and the elementals, because they're there and they exist. They're, again, it's one of those things where sometimes you can see them and a lot of times not, because they're very elusive. And you'll see them right here in your peripheral vision, like right where you can kind of stretch your eyeballs and sort of see, but not really. And you'll see this like darting movement, and you'll see movement, or you'll see different kind of a light, like a wave of light. It's almost like if there was a sheer kind of fabric, like a really gossamer kind of fabric or something like that kind of waved in the wind. Sometimes you'll see that. Or maybe people have seen fairy rings around trees, like there's mushrooms that grow in rings around the trees, or a hawthorn tree on a full moon night, especially around Beltane. Ooh, you might even see them dancing under a hawthorn tree. So anyway.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
There's so Leslie is asking, what was the name of the plant music machine?
Music of the Plants.
Music of the Plants.
That's its name. It's called Music of the Plants. It's from Damanhur, Damanhur. Damanhur is it's the Federation of Damanhur. It's a echo community in Italy.
Okay.
And that's where it comes from. There's actually lots of devices out there these days, but Damanhur, that's kind of, I think, where it originated, was from them. And you can buy, they're making little ones about the size of a cell phone. They're called bamboos. They're made out of bamboo, so they call them bamboos. The distributor here on the East Coast is Jen Fry.
Okay.
Bridget's Way. Bridget's Way is her website. Bridget's Way. You can buy one of these little devices from her.
Okay. I'll try to find that online so I can put the actual link.
Yeah,
in.
Bridget's Way. Yeah. And she just got a new shipment. So I know she's got a good stock right now. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Here's something. So Mrs. Swass is asking, and this is something I always wonder about. She says, I'm pulling up weeds in my yard. Am I upsetting the other plants? Like, what is happening to the plants around being affecting the ones, that are there?
Yeah, I hear you. Well, you can look at it in a few different ways. Some would say that you're giving space to the other plants. But, I kind of look at the plants, they're living in community, especially if it's if it's not a cultivated area, if it's a wild area or something, you'll notice, that's one of the things you look for kind of in your observation is who are all the plants that like to grow together. And so you can kind of like see that. But anyway, to answer your question, when you're weeding in your garden, for example, which is, I think, what you were saying, whenever I'm going to change something or I feel like it's necessary to change something, I let them know. I tell them, I'm going to be doing some weeding now. And I'm going to give you a little bit more space. If you don't need the space, okay, I'm okay with the plants, the weeds weeds, quote unquote, staying there. Sometimes it holds the moisture, and in some regions and some landscapes, that might be a good thing to do. You want the moisture to stay in. Here we have plenty of moisture. So, so I just kind of let them know. I let them know what's going to happen. And because otherwise it's kind of shocking to disrupt their community that way. And then as far as what you do with the weeds, I mean, a lot of them you can eat. So that's my little saying is weed them and eat them. And so, because there's so many that are edible. So, or you can actually weed them out and then lay them down as like mulch around the plants. And that helps hold the moisture in and helps keep them cool, keeps their roots cool and all of that. But I just let them know. I communicate with them. I tell them, today we're going to do some weeding and it might feel disruptive. And here's the reasons why I feel like it's necessary. What do you think? If it's not necessary, even, and it could be at different times of the day, different times of the week or the month or the season. At one point, it might not be appropriate to weed them out. At another point, it might be appropriate. So it's really about communicating and about letting them know, if I was going to probably come over to your house for dinner, I'd probably give you a call ahead of time and give you a heads up. It's kind of like that, or, coming for dinner is not quite the, let's see.
Part of the relationship and the partnership, right?
Exactly. You're being respectful. You're being like, I respect you enough to let you know, this is what I would like to do today. What do you think? It's about respect and honor. And yeah.
Well, Tammy has a question here. Is there a difference between the vibration of cut flowers or potted plants versus plants in the ground?
Plants in the ground as in the wild, or there's that element too.
I have a really interesting story actually about this that I could share if it would.
Go ahead. Let's hear it.
So there was one time I think it was for Mother's Day or Easter, I was given a little potted mum, like a chrysanthemum, right? These beautiful purple flowers, it was blooming, but it's the springtime.
Yeah.
And mums don't bloom in the springtime, but it was blooming beautifully. It was doing great. Well, I decided to plant it in the garden because I knew then it would bloom again in the fall. So I planted it in the garden. And the next morning I went out, all the flowers had fallen off. And I thought, that is fascinating, because as soon as it got connected back into the earth, it realized it was out of sync, right? It was not in the right cycle to be blooming. It lost all its flowers immediately, like within 24 hours. Yeah. And then it bloomed beautifully again in the fall, and it's been very healthy. So that was like a fascinating illustration to me.
That's connected. That's a great example, because that had been grown in a greenhouse or something. It was probably forced, they force them to make the blossoms come out so that, of course, then you're going to go buy something because it's all pretty and all that. Yeah. And that's a great example of how it was just not in alignment, was not in alignment with the seasonal cycle. I had a woman in class, this was many years ago. This was in California where I was doing my apprenticeship out there. And she was a florist. And so she had to work every day with these extremely hybridized plants, that are bred to be all showy and, colorful and all that. And she said, I'm really struggling with working with these flowers and everything. She said, because they're just like, I know they've been so manipulated and engineered and all that. And I just don't know what to do. And I was like, well, you need to communicate, you need to communicate with them. So she goes away that month, and we come back the next month. And I was like, well, how did it go? And she said, it's great. She said, I did a soul retrieval for the plants and they loved it. And I was like, that's brilliant.
That's amazing.
So she was doing soul retrievals for, she said, because, they're still plants, she said. And I just had to go retrieve their souls. Wow, I loved it. I was like, incredible. Good for you.
Yeah. Well, that probably answers Michelle's question. Michelle said, how do plants feel about being genetically altered to make hybrid plants and trees? So they might need a soul retrieval.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they might need a soul retrieval. Right. Yeah. So just to kind of like bring back that original blueprint, that's kind of what, I do. Like when, I kind of live in country where there's farms and stuff like that. And, some of this corn, like, it looks like it's it's crossed with whale genes or something. It's so enormously big. And I'm like, oh my God, what have they done to that corn? But corn is also, it's one of the three sisters. It's a sacred being. And so I've worked a lot with corn and it's kind of like, so one of my teachers is Martin Prechtel, and one of the things he's done over the years is give his students Mayan corn, which was grown in Guatemala back in the days when he was there. So you get this corn, and so I've planted that corn, which kind of carries that original blueprint. And so I'll take that corn. I know this. Some of you might say, "Oh, come on," and either make an essence out of when it flowers, when the corn stalk flowers, make a flower essence, a corn flower essence out of it. Or, after you harvest the corn, you can grind it into cornmeal. And use it for prayers and stuff. So, but I'll take that essence and literally, give drops of it to the corn. And I make my prayers and all that. And invite the corn to remember its original blueprint via the essence that I'm giving it. So,
wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of work still to do on the planet for sure, but it's doable. We can do it. We can do it.
Also, yes, that's really interesting, working with the plant essence. I'm sure we could just do that on so many levels for ourselves, for other plants, for animals.
Yes.
To help them remember the original
water, polluted water.
Uh-huh.
Polluted water is another one. Because I happen to have a spring that comes out of the ground right behind my house. It is the best water you've ever had in your life. I'm kind of a water snot because I have the best water in the world. So, I go places and I'm like, what's in this water? So anyway, I have given this. So I take I've got a few examples. The Hudson River was one of the big ones for me, but of going to polluted water and giving them some of this spring water, this wild water, because that's what this is. This is water coming out of the ground. It's wild water. And say, this is your originality. This is here. You can remember who you are by having this blueprint of this wild water. So it can be done on many levels.
Well, this is related to Chanu's question here, and she wrote a lot, so I'm just going to summarize it. But she's saying, how do we carry this forward to everyone? I feel like I'm running up against a brick wall. I restore land back to natural areas, prairies, forests, meadows, marshes. And so she's saying that people are resistant to pseudoscience, and even naturalist, druid, pagan communities are making fun of me for being a science mind. Interesting. And she's having trouble getting traction beyond people's egos. So yeah, do you have any thoughts?
Wow, it's usually the other way around.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Who's doing the criticizing?
Wow. Yeah. Geez, that's so funny because I'm always like, oh, well, I'll just throw out a scientific study here and there. And then they'll think I'm an authority or something if I throw out a scientific study here and there. Yeah. Well, let's see. That's too bad. I'm really sorry to hear that that's happening for you. Well, I would say that, the science and the spirit is not that far apart. That's what I'm finding. And that it's like the science is corroborating the what we know on a spirit level. So sometimes it's language. It's in the language. And so depending on what audience I'm speaking to is how I'm going to language it. So I can say things to you that I can't say in other audiences. And yet, so it's kind of that, again, finding that common ground, which it's all about communication. So communication, take the word, communication, communion, common union. That's the word. You break it down a little bit. So we have to continue to find the common union. Where's the common ground where we can actually talk to each other? Starts in your heart. So I'm sorry. I don't know what to say to you, except that I'm sorry that's happening. And yeah. What do they want you to do? instead.
She said that was helpful.
Well,
I
yeah,
wish
I mean,
they'd be open to the, working with the plant essences in that area, or these, maybe some incorporating some of these more herbal, earth-based, ways in with the science, maybe
yeah,
could be something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you know about geomancy? About working with the earth, um, the ley lines and all that kind of stuff. I'm just suggesting that it sounds like you're doing some of that kind of work. Um, and that's what she said in her thing she wrote, that she's doing.
Yeah, she's restoring. Well, let me go back up. Restoring land.
Yeah, lands,
Natural area,
bioregions. Yeah.
forest meadows. Yeah.
Well, I'll just mention Patrick McManaway. If you don't know him, Patrick, he's Scottish. He lives here in Vermont, but he's Scottish and he's a geomancer. So he works with the energy of the earth and the elements and the elemental beings and all that. But he works with farmers. And we're talking in Australia, in the UK, in the US, and he goes onto farms and where, production of whatever is really low, or, something needs to shift and change. And he goes in and reads the landscape and the energy of the land and works with the elementals and the nature spirits, and it shifts the energetics in the land. And I mean, he's got amazing success. We're talking like increasing production by 20% in some of these farms. And he went into one farm, the spring had dried up, and the owner of the farm was like, oh man, I really need this spring to come back. They spent 2 days, 48 hours, not solid 48 hours, but it took them 2 days, singing to the spring. Again, sound, singing to the spring. In 48 hours, that spring came back.
Oh, amazing.
So that's the kind of work Patrick's doing. So he's combining what he knows about earth energy and the geomancy and all of that with very straight and narrow scientific types, sometimes farm folk. And when they see what happens on their land and how it can be productive without being destructively, you don't have to be destructive to have it be productive, then it changes everything. And really, it's about being in relationship with your land. So anyway.
I just found his site and I put it in the chat as well in case anybody wants to check out his.
Good.
Pretty amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you, Pam, so much for all your
share.
I'd love to talk to you for 2 more hours, but
I could.
But I do want to make sure to mention your free gift to everybody.
Yes.
So Pam is sharing a beautiful free gift with all of us. Would you like to say a few words about that gift?
Yeah, we called it a little mini course, but it's just, there's 3 segments to it. And it's about plant communication. So a little journey, and then a question that's being posed, and then a video of me being with a plant and kind of St. John's wort actually, and going through my sensory awareness and sharing how I'm working with the plant. So a video. So yeah, plant communication. I think you'll enjoy it. It's fun.
Wonderful. So that should be some really good steps for us to take forward toward deepening our relationship, right? And our partnership with the plants.
Yes, absolutely.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for offering that to us. I just put that in the chat. So everybody who's on here live on Zoom, you can go to that link, just click on it. You'll be there. You can claim that gift. And also for anyone who's watching this as a recording, just scroll down a little bit below the video, and on the right side, you'll see a button. You can click there to get Pam's free gift. So I hope everybody will go and grab that. It sounds really beautiful. And so Pam, do you have any last words for us? Any final message that you would like to share with us here?
Well, I just thank you so much, first of all, for having me. And I feel hopeful. I feel like this time we are in still and is a really big shifting, changing time. And I feel like we're in this really fast evolutionary spiral right now. And we have this huge opportunity to evolve And I feel like the plants and the trees and the water and all of nature wants us to succeed. Nature wants us to succeed. Nature's not out to get us. It's like supporting us and giving us life and wants us to succeed. So I think if we just pay attention to nature more, bring it into conscious awareness, our partnership with nature, tell that story, tell that new story about our place within nature and how to be with it in a good way, in a sane way, in a non-destructive way, that this is a big, 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 big piece of our evolution right now. And as we do that, the planet gets healthier. When the planet's healthy, we're healthy. And everybody needs to really take that one in, especially in this last year.
It's incredible, the stories of how the earth healed in all these different ways as we slowed down.
Yes. When you have healthy soil, you have healthy plants, and you eat those and you're healthy. A healthy planet makes a healthy person. So, we're in this together and we have to work it together. So that's what I would say is just, get outside.
Yes. Well, we're creating that upward spiral now, right? We've been on the downward spiral, but we're creating that upward spiral. As we get healthier, we can share more, we can be more involved with the planet.
That's right. That's right.
Everything raises.
Yes. So. Yes. The vibration raises. That's right. Yeah. Yes. So.
All right. Well, thank you again, Pam, for your time today. It's been so wonderful to spend this time with you.
As well with you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And everybody out there, thank you so much for showing up live today.
Thank you. Nice to see everybody, although I didn't really see you, but thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you all so much. And thanks for those watching the recording as well. Blessings.